So, welcome, friends. I am DJ Handmade. Again, this is part 4 of How to DJ 101. And if you haven't seen the other parts, you can go on my YouTube and check those out, or Instagram. I have made a series on there. So, today I'm going to talk about transitions and set lists. So, first, I'm going to talk about transitions a little. And transitions, what is a transition? One song into another song. So, if you have one song playing and you're trying to queue up another song, what are some things that you can do? The easiest thing is to beat match, which means you're going to match the beats, and you're going to basically take the other track and adjust the bass, the mids, or the treble so that the two songs can blend together. So I'm gonna do an example for you with the Jaws theme song going in left and this other song, Internet Friends, on the right channel. So here we go. I'm gonna just get this baby going from the beginning of the track. And by the way, this is a 125 BPM song in the key of F. A track playing right now that's 125. The next track I'm going to put in is 129, so I had to adjust the speed slower to get this thing at the same speed, so they're both at 125 on the tempo fader. And I've taken so long to talk to you guys that it already ran out of space on here. So I'm going to just back up a little bit. I'm going to search backwards and give myself a bit of time. Okay, here we go. Okay, so what ended up happening, because I'm trying to talk and do everything at the same time, I kind of let these two tracks flow into each other. I'm gonna start it again and do something interesting with it because there's a vocal at the beginning of this track on the right deck. It's kind of like a creepy thing that's going on here, but you could also add a beat underneath of it. So I'm gonna actually start this track over here, which sounds like this. So it has a beat going, and I'm gonna see what happens if I add these two tracks like almost together, almost like a mashup kind of. But I'm gonna put this down, so I can't really explain it, but you can just watch and kind of see what I'm talking about. And write me if you have any questions on this.
I want to play a game. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Now you're going to die.
And if you were paying close attention, you would have noticed that I transitioned from one song to the other song. Basically, the length of the right deck ran out compared to the left. So this one's still going. And this isn't like an exact science. You have to experiment a lot and get comfortable with it and be willing to make mistakes, obviously, because it's not an exact science. So that's just with using the faders right here, which have to do with like the treble, the mids, and the bass, and then using a filter, which you can adjust over here, the sound color effects. The other thing I wanted to talk about is looping. So the end of this track, which I'll just search back a little bit, has a couple bars of the same thing. So I'm going to cue it up with the cue in, and I'm going to find like good stopping place for it and do the cue out. And I'm just going to let this thing play. Hold on, here we go. Basically, this section is just going to loop. Now, the issue is sometimes when you're looping, it like kind of hurries back to the front of the loop. Check it out. Which kind of isn't great. So you have to be careful about that. But if it's not an exact science, you can make it work, and I'll try to do it with like a vocal on top of it, an acapella vocal, to show you how you can transition between these two things.
Greetings and welcome. I want to play a game. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, so I was using the loop underneath a completely clean vocal. Here's the vocal by itself.
Greetings and welcome.
So it just says greetings and welcome. And then do. That's the first time you're gonna hear something until here.
10, 9, 8.
So then you can feel a beat.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And then it goes into a really heavy beat. So the loop wouldn't really sync up perfectly there, so I kind of transitioned out of it during it, and you can back up later once this video's over and listen to it, and I'll put it on YouTube also. So you'll see what I'm talking about. So you have to use your creativity here when you're doing your loops because they're not an exact science. Again, none of it is. So this is the loop. You can hear it. It's not exactly perfect when it goes swinging back. It's not exactly perfect. It's not like when you would cut it in Ableton, you could make it exactly perfect. So you have to keep that in mind. And that's why you have to kind of shift over here on the jog wheel to make sure that if you're a little off, it's going to be okay. The other thing about transitions is using the volume fader, because even though I have the filter all the way down, you can still hear this bass, and it's pretty loud. So if you have two basses going at the same time, you can lower the volume. See? It's like a little subtle thing, because when you have two tracks playing and they're both doing basses, it's going to be super loud. These are really subtle things, and as you're learning how to DJ, you'll listen back to your own mixes and go, ooh, shit, that transition was really it was rough. So how can I make it better? Volume is one of the things. Bringing your volume down of your bass is another. So if I'm playing the bass, I'm going to turn the volume all the way down to the bass. It's not very loud here. It sounds like as I'm getting louder. I'm going to turn the filter, and I'm going to turn the bass with the filter down. So it's more like ding, ding, ding versus like a thudding. Boom, boom. So even with the filter off, and in my ear, when the filter is on and the bass is up, it's almost like the bass is louder because that's pretty much all you hear. So you want to keep all of that in mind. The other thing I was going to talk to you about is echo. So using an echo can give you a little, I guess, leeway on mistakes, kind of, because it's like, depending on how much echo. So I'm going to turn echo on, and I'm going to put it on this track over here with the loop, just so you can hear what it sounds like. I'm going to put it on louder. It makes it just kind of like ethereal. I'll just keep the echo going. So that way, if you wanted to have like a kind of trailing off ending, you can easily do that with the echo feature. I'll just play wherever we are. I'm going to bring down the volume, and then this one. It'll save you in a pinch if you're like, oh my gosh, these two tracks have nothing to do with each other. How am I going to go from this track to that track? The echo, depending on how much echo you put, it makes it really ambiguous. I'll do a little less echo. Just kind of works. So I hope that helps. The echo feature. So we did the looping echo filters. So I'm gonna show you each filter. This is space filter. And that was with the echo on. Here's what the space filter is like. It's just blurring everything big time. So here's the space filter over here. It's like yang, 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 yang kind of thing. Here is dub echo. kind of similar. It would be more appropriate at the very end of something. Here's sweep. It's more creepy. It sounds like... Okay, here's noise. You hear it already. I haven't even turned on the music.
Greetings and welcome. I want to play a game.
It's like choo choo. Here is crush.
9, 7, 5, 3, 1.
It almost sounds like an amp, like for a distorted guitar. It's a pretty cool feature, but you really need to be careful when you're using it because it's pretty loud. And it can sound like your speakers are broken. You just don't want to, you don't want your audience to ever think, oh my gosh, this DJ literally broke the speakers. Or you don't want the promoter to think that either, because they're going to be like, wow, you broke like $50,000 worth of speakers tonight. And you didn't. It's just that you had the crush on. And you can see what I'm talking about. They'd be like, oh my gosh, the sound is all pinched. That's when you turn it to the right. Turn it to the left. You just want to use it sparingly. Here is the filter, which is probably the most common one that you're going to use. Here we go.
10, 9.
It just engulfs the sound. You can still hear it underneath, but it's not like... That's if you take it to the right. So I would suggest, if you're a beginner, keep it on filter and don't mess around with these other ones too much, because I just want to save you the pain of like some major issues. Okay. The other thing is I have my little notes. So I wrote down finding songs that match and melodies that flow directly with lyrics. So partly what we were doing earlier was that I took like a beat like this. You can have a beat. You can loop the beat if you want so that you have a little extra time. And you can take a vocal that kind of goes with it. Over it. Now these two tracks are pretty similar because on the left side it's F and on the right side is F minor. So they have the same note as like the basis of the song. So that's a really good thing. I want to talk a little bit about that. And if you're trying to find melodies to go with vocals in other songs, they really should be in a related key or a similar key at least. So I'm going to turn on my lovely image over here that's going to be of the circle of fifths. So you might be asking yourself, what is the circle of fifths? So this is a music theory thing. So it's a music thing that you should know about. Okay, I hope you guys can see this. So basically, you've got two kinds of scales. For the most part, in Western music, you have major scales and you have minor scales. So in this circle, you can see in red, like a dark crimson, it says major and it says C, and then it goes around G, D, A, E, B. And on the other side, you have F, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, and then you end on G flat, and it corresponds to the sharp version, which is F sharp. So if you read music, you can see what I'm talking about. I have the treble clef with the key signature with the sharps or the flats. So if you're in the key of C, the related minor is A, and they made it like a small a, and in the middle of the circle it says minor. So C and A minor might work well together because they are related. And then you have G with E minor, D with B minor, A with F sharp, and so on. And you guys can look at that and kind of study that chart a little bit. I personally have all this memorized because I am a musician. As a lot of you know, I play the flute, but I also play the piano, I play the guitar, I play the drums. So it's not something that I have to like have some sort of piece of paper to remember it. But it wouldn't be a bad thing if you went on Wikipedia and, looked this up, circle of fifths, and, just kind of memorized it as much as you can, or print it out and put it next to your DJ stuff. This could also help you when you're producing, because you need to write melodies when you're producing. You need to understand about music theory. If you don't understand about music theory and you're trying to write a song that has a melody and then has a chord structure under it, it's going to be really hard if you don't know what key you're in, or what kind of chords are going to match at all. So this kind of basic stuff is really important. I hope it helps. If you're not sure what it means, just, send me a message and I can try to help you too. So basically, it was something that I covered in like the very first part 1, but I kind of glazed over it. Now, one thing is you can have F on one side, F major, and then F minor on the other, and it still actually might sound okay because the main note that you hear a lot is going to be F. So you might have some notes that don't fit together, but in general, it might be okay. But if you have like a F major, you can also have D minor. And you want to think about that if you're trying to mash up songs, but you also want to think about that if you're trying to go from one track to the next track to the next track and make it seamless. It's not only about tempo, it's also about the key that you're in. So you want to study this and then you'll know, because if you have a song that has mostly flats, let's say you're playing a track that's in B flat and then you drop in a track that's in E major, they are going to clash really badly because B flat major has an E flat in the key. So E flat and E natural or regular E, it's just not going to sound that great together. And you'll notice that from the chart. They aren't related to each other at all. So they're just too distant, and there's going to be notes that don't sound great together. Those are called dissonant notes. So you want to be mindful of that. In general, I mean, if you're a DJ, you want to think about this as like an instrument anyway. It's just like kind of a super instrument that can play any song and any sound that you want. It's like having an entire radio channel and orchestra at your fingertips. So it's a big responsibility and you can do a lot with it, but you have to understand some music theory to do that. So you might be asking, what is a sharp and what is a flat? They're essentially kind of the same thing. They're just like in between a note. So you have C, then you have D, right? Well, in between C and D, you could think, oh, it's C sharp. Well, it's also D flat. It's the same thing. It's the same note. It's like the notes that live in between each other, right? So we have C, D, E, F, G, A, B. We don't go past G. We don't have H, right? And then it starts over again. So you have C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And that connects a C major scale. So on this circle of fifths, you can figure out every single scale, basically. And it tells you how many sharps are in each one, and it goes around the whole thing. So I thought it was really easy. I think I found this from Wikipedia and just stuck it here so you guys can see it. Let me know if that makes any sense at all. I hope it does. It might be like I'm speaking a different language. So I'm going to turn this one off, and I'm going to go to my next thing. So my next thing I wanted to talk about is like, how do you decide, what song you're going to go to, right? Like, how do you start a set and end a set? So it really depends on what your set is for. And if you're playing at a club, whenever clubs come back, I know there's drive-in stuff going on or whatever, you have to coordinate with the promoter and see what does the promoter want you to do, and adhere to whatever rules they want. I've played all kinds of sets. I've played trance sets, tech house, dubstep, and dubstep is my main genre, but if you guys listen to my radio show, you know that I literally play everything, even top 40s. So you need to talk to the promoter. If you're the headliner, you also still need to talk to the promoter because it could be like a special event and they need you to do a certain thing. And of course, you're going to want to play your own music if you do have your own music, but you need to ask like what you're allowed to do. Are you allowed to have a special guest sing with you? Are you allowed to play an instrument like I do? All kinds of stuff. But the main thing is, I think even if you're a headliner, Um, I think you should warm the crowd up, so to speak. So you should think of your set, start to finish, as an experience. So this is my opinion, and you might not agree with it. But I don't think it's really healthy to just slam the audience with something super loud right from the very beginning. You can if you want, but it's up to you. And that this is a controversial thing, but this is my opinion. My opinion is that you should take people on a journey, and the ending should be more intense because you've built up to it, right? So, of course, that's going to change in the way that you are in your club. Like, if you are at 9 o'clock, that is different, obviously, than if you're at 1 in the morning, because people are going to be at a different energy level. You also have to watch the crowd and see what's going on. You can plan as much as you possibly can in your house before you go out there, and then everything can go out the window once you get there, and you could suddenly be like, wow, these people are not enjoying this kind of music. They're enjoying this kind of music. And if you are a DJ who cares about what the audience wants, you might change your set in the middle of it and literally adapt. You can also do that on a live stream if you're seeing people that are interacting with your music more in a certain genre. You might be like, okay, I need to actually play more of that genre. And I do that all the time on radio. I'm like, I'll see if there's a lot of interaction on a certain thing, and then I'm like, okay, they really want that today. So I'm going to add a lot more of that in there because I can tell they're really excited about this particular genre. Okay, so it's all about planning ahead. That's one of my notes. Plan ahead like it's a chess game. So you would want to have an opening, a middle, and an ending in your mind of where you're going. So you might start off slower. You might start slow in the sense of speed, or you might start slow in the sense of mood. Now, mood can be the same speed. You could have a 150 BPM song, but the energy of it is just a lot more chill. It could be like the song Good Vibrations by Nightmare. It's just a lot more chill than playing something by Crankdat or Excision or something like that. It's just not going to be the same. And you have to live in the moment that you're in. This is the trickiest part about DJing. You have to live in this moment where you're actually listening to what you're doing and hyping the crowd. But you also have to live in the future because you have to plan out what's next, and you have to constantly be seeing how much more time do I have on the song that I'm in, and then how can I transition to the next one? Am I going to mash these two together? Am I going to mix them together? Is it going to be a hard out, like I was showing you with the echoing or anything really you could do to get out of it? The big piece of advice is that you really need to remember what you've done already, because you really don't want to repeat yourself. Your audience will remember if you played a certain song. Like if you played like a Roddy Ricch song earlier in the set, you don't want to play it again. It's just not good. You shouldn't do that. You also don't want to play songs of the headliner. So if you're opening for Nightmare, you don't want to be playing a ton of Nightmare music, because he's going to play his own music. It seems like common sense, but I just want to say that. And you don't ever want to upstage someone. You don't want to be like, this is my show if you're supposed to be a support act. You want to really be mindful that, no, it's not your show. Your job basically is to warm the crowd for the main person. When you are the headliner, you can go do whatever you want to do with it. But when you're supposed to be right before the headliner, you really have to be respectful to the headliner. Otherwise, the headliner is not going to want to ever have you play in front of them again. Which brings up my next thing. If you're at a club and the club doesn't want the music to stop and has several DJs booked, you have to coordinate with the person right before you, so that the music continues to play, and that when you transfer your USB, there isn't like a meltdown and the board doesn't just like break. You have to press stop and make sure that it's ready for you to extract your USB so that you don't cause a malfunction. And then when the next person is ready, you need to help them. So if you are playing a song at like 140 and they are like, oh wow, I'm going to come in at 90, you need to help them a little, because it's going to be a really tricky transition. You might need to use some effects, like I was talking about, echo or something, and talk to them. This isn't a competition, honestly. It's not like I'm better than you and I want you to crash and burn after I get off the stage. This should be a community where we all support each other. So I'm playing and then I help you so that you are doing great. And if there's a malfunction going on, I'm there for you because I want you to succeed. I have been on stage with so many people where when they put their USB in, it said there was an error and none of their music could load. And I could see their face turn white and just like they look like they were going to cry. And I helped them. And hey, it's happened to me as well. Sometimes I've had to literally turn off the entire system because it broke on one side and then loop a song. I've literally had everything that you could possibly think of happen. And the greatest thing is that us DJs, when I've had this happen, we stuck together and we figured out how to fix things, and we got through these crazy situations. The other thing I want to talk about is how do you actually play a back-to-back? So if you've been told that you have to bring another DJ with you for your set, because usually they want a certain number of tickets sold, and they're like, oh, if there's two of you, you guys can sell tickets easier. You need to plan out your set. I mean, you don't want to just show up the day of your performance and be like, yo, I have no idea what you're playing or what I'm playing. I'm just going to like do my thing and then hand you the headphones. That's the disaster waiting to happen. So you want to obviously coordinate your set ahead of time and talk to the back-to-back partner and be like, hey, I want to do dubstep and I want to do these songs. And if they want to do tech house or whatever they want to do, you've got to figure out how you're going to do that together, because that's going to be tricky. I honestly think you should stick the same genre and make sure you're not planning to play the same songs. And one thing that I did was I rehearsed with my back-to-back. One of my back-to-back performances, we actually went to a rehearsal studio and like rehearsed the whole thing and practiced handing off the headphones, and one of us would hype the crowd while the other one was DJing and vice versa, and we would take turns like every 3 to 5 songs. And it went really well because we rehearsed it. And we had someone watch the rehearsal and give feedback. So the main thing is communication. Like, communication is important in every single aspect of doing a back-to-back, but it's also important if you are by yourself and you're trying to transition the next person. Communication is everything. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I think that's pretty much it. I really hope that this helped you guys. I really hope that, teaching a little bit about this can inspire you to get your own controller at home and start messing around and just being brave about it and just go for it. I've become really busy to the point where this has to be my last episode for a while, unless you guys send me specific questions, like really specific questions, and then I can jump on and like kind of go through those. But I need to focus on some other things right now, so I can't do this every week like I was hoping I could. I really hope, and I really, fingers crossed, I hope this inspires you. That's the whole point of this entire series. So this has been 4th episode. I'm going to sign off for tonight, and I really appreciate you watching, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday night.